Hi, Embracing Only podcast family. This is Archita. We are introducing impact moments, actionable insights that highlight the best and powerful learning moments and wisdom from our past episodes of incredible guests. In this highlight reel, you'll hear leadership lessons from a combat veteran, taking action to be anti-racist, mastering workplace negotiations, leveraging your uniqueness for success. We'll take a topic and break it down in a short, snappy episode. So click on the link in the show notes to continue listening to these impact moments with our amazing guests. So, Elsbeth, you were at the top of your success ladder and you've had a couple of different shifts. Tell me more about what these shifts were that helped you make some critical life decisions.
I loved Asia. I loved everything about it. But my goal at the time was all my goals at the time were related to my career, every one of them. And so, I still had pretty good health. My relationships were good with my friends and all those places. But it was all about career. And I think I'd been over there just about 6 years. And near the end of that time, I was supposed to come back to the States to be home for Christmas with family and friends. And right before I left, I ended up getting dengue fever. And looking back, I got dengue fever. Yes, there was a mosquito involved, I'm sure, but it was because I was completely run down, and that was self-inflicted because I traveled probably 27 days a month, and it wasn't that my company was forcing me to. It was more my own drive for achievement. I don't know. It was self-inflicted in part. But when I got dengue, I ended up in the hospital for 2.5 weeks, I think, and I can honestly say I don't remember all of it. I think I was in and out and mostly hallucinating. But one thing I do know that kind of shifted and made me come back to the States was that at the end of that period, being in a hospital and coming back out of it and realizing kind of what I'd just gone through was eye-opening. Sometimes you need a huge impact moment to make you think about changes in your life. And so for me, what it did was it kind of opened my eyes to, you love your job and everything else, but you've not sacrifice everything else, but you've put everything else on hold. And I realized that I still did want the chance to have kids. I still did want the chance to maybe have a deeper, loving relationship with another person, all those things that I thought of earlier in life, but I kind of just put aside because I was so busy accelerating my career. My company was really cool about it. I had engaged discussions with them and I said, look, I'm pretty burned out and pretty stuck. I know I love this company, but I want to take, say, 10 months unpaid to go take a beat as I moved back to the States. And then we were able to figure out what role I could go sort of thing. So I took this mental health break and I went to Vail where I had a condo and in Colorado. And I was a raft guide and I did skiing security. And it was a really healthy, outdoorsy kind of time in my life to regroup and just kind of refresh a little bit. Coincidentally, right after I left, the company was acquired by another large medtech company. So the new medtech company I committed to working with for a year in Denver. But after that, I took another break and I decided before I figure out the next steps, I'll start a wine bar restaurant. And then a whole host of different things happened. But on the personal side, gotten engaged to somebody. I think I was trying to control how I was going to have a deep relationship in some ways. And so I just automatically made it happen. And in the end, I ended up breaking off that engagement. And so my comfort place was to then go back to corporate. And I found another great company in Michigan. And that's where I met you. For me, that was a big transition period where I was trying to still figure out exactly what I needed in the balance in my life, that sort of thing. And I probably didn't figure some of that out until Michigan, and even ongoing after that. It took me a while to figure out exactly what that balance had to look like for myself.
You walk me through that journey. It's really unraveling. Yes, you've had significant shifts that made you step back and think, but you took that opportunity to reflect, think, and then pursue the next part of your journey, knowing all of this is going to work towards like a bigger picture that
Mm-hmm.
will help heal you or help you pursue like the next part of your chapters in your life. Have you had any sacrifices you've had to make along the way as you pursued this extremely successful corporate career?
My vision and goals that I had from the very beginning were purely focused on my career. I never really set goals or really had clarity on exactly what I wanted for other aspects of my life. So things like relationships and things like that. I just kind of took them as they came. And I didn't feel that I'd made sacrifices by doing what I did until later. And then I wouldn't say it was a sacrifice, especially towards the end of my time in Asia and after having dengue, I would say I think I longed for more. For me, that more was at the time was kids and a relationship. So I had certainly put myself in a position where it might be harder to get those things. So while it wasn't sacrifices, if you have a clear picture, like today, I have a very clear picture of exactly what I want, kind of in all the quadrants of my life. I feel like my vision is far more balanced. And I don't have all of them yet, but I'm striving towards each of them. It's not one all by itself without consideration to the other. That's probably why there could have been some perceived sacrifices, but it was by design because I designed that vision and I was achieving it. So I think that's probably the difference. I don't know if it was more that I didn't really specify or think through what it is that I wanted for the complete package versus just my career.
So, how did you get to the point wherein you identified that you needed to define, whatever that balance might look like in the quadrants outside of your professional life?
Hmm. I mean, that was probably one of the tougher journeys. And I don't think I actually got fully through that until the past 2 years. I actually went through a really regimented process, kind of a process that I was able to use to really think through, what is it that I really want and what things are really less than ideal in my career or vocation. If I were to say 3 years from now, I totally love what I'm doing, what aspects would be there? And I did the same thing for my relationships. I did the same thing for my health. I did the same thing for kind of my time and money freedom. Kind of looked at all these different aspects. And then all of a sudden, as you start to do this, you start to see how some of these can fit together. It's like, well, I want these things in my career, but I want to make sure I have enough flexibility to actually see my kids when they're heading off to school. And so it kind of made a more balanced picture over time. And I think it's going to be ever evolving, but I've definitely considered everything, all those different pieces of what I need to really love what I'm doing. I've achieved having it all, or whatever you might call it, at different stages in my life. What that is and what that looks like changes. The biggest change for me that I noticed was having kids. And this might be true for quite a few women, especially if you're really successful and you're really driven in your career. Having kids throws you on your backside because the approach that I took to be successful was incredibly hardworking, very dedicated, very driven, very high achieving. And when you have kids, it's like there's only so much of you that you can put out. You only have so many hours in a day. And you can't seem to, you always feel guilty about one or the other. At least that was my experience. Oh, I feel like I could have done a little bit more at work, or, oh, I'm bringing the leftovers home to my kids, and it's because I wasn't looking at them kind of in unity. It's like, what would it look like? What would it feel like if I had that perfect balance? And then when you create this visual, and what's really interesting is that when I created this vision and I actually convinced myself I'm already living it, then things start to come your way that kind of help you with that vision. It's kind of strange. It's like you want something that could still give you X, Y, and Z, but it only takes a portion of your time and you can still make the money that you need and things like that. I mean, that's where that tech startup came from, because it was satisfying a lot of the things that I needed in order to do some of the other things that I wanted. And it was interesting. And it's not something that I think I'll do forever, but it really helped me to have the balance that I needed and the time for my kids and some of those other things. Same thing with the coaching. It's something that's really enabled me to feel full. I'm getting something out of it. It's inspiring to me. but it's also incredibly flexible with my time. And those are things right now that are really critical to me because of the ages my kids are at the moment. It'll change in 5 years, I guarantee.
Being a coach yourself, you have a coach as well that you kind of lean on to kind of help you keep on track, but also prioritizing this time of self-reflection as important as.
You shouldn't take time and money into the equation when you're trying to come up with the ultimate dream. So you have to assume you have all the time in the world and you have all the money in the world. Like, let's pretend that tomorrow somebody on the street handed you $500,000 and said, hey, I'm going to give this to you, but only if you follow your dreams and you live the life you would exactly love to live starting tomorrow. I mean, what would it look like? And again, it's not going to be tomorrow, but what would that look like? And it doesn't have to be grandiose. It might be, but it could be really simple, right? Again, there's no right answer to this. And if you do that, then you might be able to create things that get you there. You might be able to start to do some things on the side, like that move you and give you a little piece of it. Because once you know what your dream is, you just do enough. Do what you can with what you have available to you right now to start moving towards it. I've only got $10 and 10 minutes to spend. What would that $10 and 10 minutes look like to move you one step closer? The problem with money and time is that they are condition based. It takes the creativity and the imagination out of it. And those two things are the things that can enable the best clarity of a true dream, right? You really have to imagine something before it could ever become real, at least, right? So when somebody decided they were going to make an airplane, they imagined that people could fly. But nobody, if they talk to people, they would say, that's insane, you can't do it. That's a condition. That's like time and money. So just try. It's a little bit weird and a little bit out there, but try to take those two things out and listen to kind of the longings and discontents in each of your quadrants of your life to get to a dream. And don't worry about the how or the logistics of it, or that's not the point of the process, right? That's later, and you can get to an how later. But you need that cool, like, I love my life, I'm doing this. Even writing it in present tense can help, which sounds crazy, but I'm so happy and grateful now that now that I blah, 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 and blah, and blah, and blah, and pretend that you say this in today, even though it's not really here. Because there's something about that vibrational energy, present tense, you start to believe it and start to live in that energy a little bit. And then you sit next to somebody on a plane that gives you the perfect opportunity to make it a reality, regardless of money. It's a bit of a leap of faith.
It's a huge leap of faith. Yes,
it's a leap of faith. But it doesn't mean you're acting on it fully yet. It just means that you're creating it and making it tangible for yourself.